Okay, so it's time to call to order the regular Planning Commission meeting for today, September 1. Um, We'll come to order. I don't have a gavel. I'll busy. So if we could all please rise and follow, let's see, Commissioner Uva, if you wouldn't mind, in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
All right, place your right hand over your heart and begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, and welcome. I didn't give you a proper welcome. I think the last meeting I was still absent, however, attending in this manner. So welcome, Ms. Uva.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So at this time, will the secretary please call roll?
Commissioner Uva,
Present.
Commissioner Ortiz,
Present.
Commissioner Montoya,
Present.
Vice Chair Owens,
Present.
and Chair Duarte is absent.
Thank you, Mary. At this time, will those in the audience please read the cover page of the agenda as it outlines the procedures which the commission will follow. This is the time set aside for oral communications for the Planning Commission. Does any commissioner wish to express announcement or report on a conference or meeting or request items for a future agenda? Ms. Uva?
None for me.
Thank you. Mr. Montoya?
Nothing to report, Vice Chair Owens.
And Mr. Ortiz?
And nothing to report either.
Thank you. Is the Director of Community Development aware of any presentations for tonight?
Hello, Vice Chair Owens. No presentations tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Schindler. Does the Director of Community Development have any changes to this agenda?
Vice Chair, no changes tonight.
Thank you, ma'am.
Chairman, I do have one comment just to remind you, since you are participating virtually, the votes for tonight's meeting will be done by roll call.
Okay. Thank you. Does the Director of Community Development have a report on City Council actions?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. At the last council meeting, the City Council approved the specific plan amendment and redevelopment plans for the southeast corner of Downey and Firestone, and that project was approved by the Planning Commission a few meetings back as well. So they approved that via public hearing, and it'll come back to them for a second reading at their next meeting on September 14th. And that concludes my updates.
Thank you, Mr. Schindler. So at this time, it's the time set aside for public hearings. So we can open public hearing PLN-21-00104, the conditional use permit. Does the secretary have proof of publication?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Will the Director of Community Development introduce the staff that's making the presentation?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Tonight we have our senior planner, Alfonso Hernandez, to make the presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Tonight, you're being asked to consider a conditional use permit for a commercial recreation facility at the Stonewood Mall. The commercial recreation facility is in the form of an airsoft shooting range. The business is Galactic Challenge, and the applicant is Corey Okeshi. This is an aerial of the Stonewood Shopping Center, outlined in red, located on Firestone Boulevard between Lakewood Boulevard and Woodruff Avenue. The site in total covers 63 acres. This is the corresponding zoning for the subject property and nearby area. The site is developed under a specific plan, SP 89-1, or also called the Stonewood Specific Plan. To the east are R1 and R3 lots developed with condominiums and single-family homes. To the north are primarily R1 zone properties. To the west are CP zone properties developed with a mix of both commercial and residential. And to the south are commercial properties located within the Lakewood/Firestone specific plan. Here is the layout of the Stonewood Mall. Outlined in red is where the tenant space is proposed. Here where my laser is pointing. To the left of the screen, directly east of the food court. Here is the image of the proposed floor plan. The tenant space is located, again, to the east of the food court. The tenant space is a total of 1,499 square feet. The space is mainly made up of 5 shooting lanes. The customers are positioned where we see the purple boxes. And across the way are the targets where we see the light blue boxes here. Here is a rendering of what the entrance will look like. Here's an image of what the interior will look like. Here are a few more images. To the left is a closer view of the range and the rifles. And to the right are the images of the targets. The hours of operation will be Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. These hours are consistent with the mall hours. The activity is best described as a carnival-style target game. The rifles at a minimum must have a blaze orange tip and orange trigger guard to distinguish them from firearms and imitation firearms. The applicant expects no more than 20 patrons at any given time and 2 staff members. I would like to point out the project is conditioned to follow all state and county protocols in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. That condition is number 6 in your resolution. In conclusion, it is staff's opinion that all findings can be made in a positive manner. And with that, I end my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hernandez. At this time, does staff have any, did the commission have any questions of staff? Commissioner Uva?
No, I don't. Very nice presentation. Thank you.
Okay. How about Commissioner Montoya?
No questions for staff. Thank you.
And Commissioner Ortiz?
None for me either.
And I have none. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Before I call the applicant or his or her representative, this would be the time for any planning commissioners to disclose any pre-hearing site visits or pre-hearing discussions the commissioners may have had about the project. Ms. Uva
I have had none.
and Mr. Montoya,
None for me as well, Vice Chair.
Mr. Ortiz,
None for me either.
and none for me. Thank you. So at this time, will the applicant or his or her representative please come forward to give testimony? For the record, could you state your name and your address clearly for the secretary, please?
Sure. My name is Koray Oksasi. The address is 16703 Nicklaus Drive, Unit 30, Silmar, California 91342.
Right. So tell us about your project.
So we're planning to open another store at Downey at the Stonewood Center. So we have Airsoft target range entertainment game place. So far, we have 12 stores in Southern California. So I would like to mention the names. One in Northridge Fashion Center, Main Place Santa Ana, Galleria at Tyler Riverside, Temecula, Panorama Mall in Van Nuys, South Bay Galleria, Redondo Beach, The Oaks at Thousand Oaks, Victorville in Victor Valley, Lakewood Center we just opened 2 days ago. We got the CUP last month. Topanga Mall in Woodland Hills, Fashion Square Mall in Los Angeles, and shops at Mission Viejo So basically, our customers come into the store, and we have airsoft rifles. They shoot plastic BBs, and there are 30 targets, and they're giving 60 BBs to shoot them. Once they knock down all the targets, they win a prize. It's like a carnival-style shooting game, and everybody gets really happy and enjoy the game over there.
Great, great. Thank you. At this time, do any of the commissioners have questions of the applicant? None? Okay. How about, is there Any correspondence in favor or opposition?
No correspondence.
All right. So I have a question of the applicant.
Sure.
All right. So what's proposed for the Stonewood location is generally the same size as your other locations. Is it bigger? Is it smaller? Where are we?
It's similar. So we are located between 1,500 to 3,000 square footage at different places, but similar.
And in the plan, for the company, if you will, do you have envision open competitions, rankings of shooters? Bringing the all-stars back, pitting them against each other. How does this roll out, or does it?
So we usually do the tournaments at the stores, so it's not between all the different locations. We do not carry people from one to another one, but mainly we're planning to have the tournament monthly, and it takes usually like 7 to 10 days, and people shoot at those targets, and we time them. And if they knock them down less than 20 seconds, they win a bigger prize like a drone or some RC cars. But it's not a general competition. It's just happening at the store level.
Okay, great. And just in a ballpark, what's the cost? What's the cost for a round of shooting the airsoft?
Yeah, good question. It's only for $10 per game, so you usually get more than 60 BBs, and there's no timeline for people to play, so they spend usually 3 to 5 minutes, and one game costs only $10.
All right, great. So let me go back around the commission and ask commissioners again, do they have any additional questions? Ms. Uva?
The only question I have is in the staff report, it talked about two things. The number of people usually is about 20 in there at a time. Is that just from, no?
That's the max number Mr. Hernandez was asking me. So, but we usually have 5 stations in this store. Particularly, this one is a little smaller than the original one. So we expect to have 5 shooters at the same time, maybe like 1 or 2 watchers behind them. So it doesn't go more than 10, but the space can occupy like around 20. But we don't usually have 20.
Okay, at one time, basically. Okay, and then my second question is, there was something in here about minor children had to be accompanied by an adult. At what age is that where the adult has to be with them?
So they depends on the age, because in California, in September of 2014, Governor Brown signed into law SB 199, which regulates airsoft guns and other imitations to give them distinctive features, what would distinguish them as toys instead of real firearms. So with the parent supervision, all ages are legally allowed to play airsoft games in California. So we do sometimes see like 5 years old coming in with the parents and they're enjoying it, but we ask them to be next to them, and they have to wear the goggles, the safety glasses, and help the kids hold it, because sometimes it might be a little bit heavy for them to carry, and then help them out while shooting and while aiming.
Or aim, yeah, exactly. Okay, those are my 2 questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Uwa.
All right. How about Commissioner Montoya? Any questions of the applicant?
Just one small question. So the theme is space theme and galactic. Does that ever change, or it will continue to kind of keep that theme?
We took over the company more than a year ago, and they had the Northridge Fashion Center and the main place. So we did not want to change it, but we did more implementation on that because they didn't have that kind of feature like the drawings and everything in the store. So we would love to continue with the same space theme.
Okay, all right, that's good. Thank you. That concludes my questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Montoya.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ortiz, any questions?
No questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And again, thank you for standing in front of us and presenting your project. Sounds like a nice project.
Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to us.
Thank you. So at this time, does the planning staff have a recommendation?
Yes, staff recommends the Planning Commission approve conditional use permit PLN-21-00104.
All right. Now it's time for the Planning Commission to discuss.
Did we ask for public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. I asked if anyone had any, I did ask for that. I didn't see anybody rise or wasn't informed that anybody rose, but we'll ask again. Is there anyone in favor or opposition of the application? If you are in favor or opposition and are in attendance, please rise to speak. Do we have anyone?
No, there's no one.
All right, thank you. At this time, the Planning Commission would take and discuss this application. Do the commissioners have any comments? Ms. Uva?
No comments.
All right. Mr. Montoya
No comments either.
and Mr. Ortiz?
No comments from me.
All right, I think it's a good project. I will support this project. So that would be my comments. So at this time, I would entertain a motion.
I motion to pass PLN -21-00104.
I'll second that motion.
Great, we have a motion and a second. Could the secretary please call roll?
Commissioner Uva,
Aye.
Commissioner Ortiz,
Aye.
Commissioner Montoya,
Aye.
Vice Chair Owens.
Aye.
And the motion passes to adopt PLN 21-00104 conditional use permit with 4 in favor and Chair Duarte absent.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda, now is the time for the public hearing, PLN-21-00033. Location is 7503 Pivot Street. Does the secretary have proof of publication?
Yes, we do.
And will the Director of Community Development introduce the staff that's making this presentation?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Tonight we have our Principal Planner, Guillermo Arreola, to make the presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. Before you is variance application number PLN 21-00033, which is a request to deviate from the Downey Municipal Code in order to allow a 10-foot rear yard setback instead of a required 20-foot minimum. The property is located at 7503 Pivot Street at the intersection of Pivot and North Lane. The property is zoned R1 5000. And the applicant is proposing to construct a 540 square foot addition to the rear of the home, and due to the unique shape of the lot, is unable to construct an addition with a functional floor plan without encroaching into the required 20-foot setback. The variance process provides a process for resolving physical hardships that may result from the size, shape, or dimensions of a lot. The average lot depth in the neighborhood is 97 feet. The subject site measures 89 feet at its shallowest point. The average building envelope measures 57 feet. In comparison to the 49 feet of the subject site, the building envelope is that area where you can build that doesn't include the front setback, 20-foot setback, or the rear 20-foot setback. Oh, and the side setbacks as well. Oops. And as I mentioned before, the property is unique and has unique property lines and unique shape. And even though the rear property line goes away from the front property line, the front lot line is actually very unique as well, as it curves and reduces the or pushes back the building envelope so that it actually encroaches a little, just under 8 feet into the 20-foot setback. So in addition, an addition that strictly follows the shape of a lot could potentially lead to non-rectilinear building lines. So in this particular case, you have a non-rectilinear lot, as you see on the left-hand side, and you'd have curves or weird shapes to the addition if it strictly followed the shape of the lot. The DRC reviewed the project and no department expressed any concerns over the variance request and provided standards conditions of approval. And all required findings can be made in a positive manner. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ariola. So at this time, does the planning commissioners have any questions of Mr. Ariola? Commissioner Uva
I do not have any questions.
and Commissioner Montoya
No questions.
and Commissioner Ortiz,
No questions either.
and I have none as well. Thank you. So before I call the applicant or his or her representative, this would be the time for any planning commissioner to discuss any pre-hearing site visit or pre-hearing discussion the commissioner may have had about the project. Commissioner Uva,
None for me.
Commissioner Montoya,
I have none as well.
Commissioner Ortiz,
I have none either.
and I have none. Thank you. Will the applicant or his or her representative please come forward to give testimony?
Good evening, and thank you all. My name is Jeff Worthy, 7621 Brook Mill Road, Downey, California. In full disclosure, the applicants in this case, one of them is my daughter and my son-in-law, and this is a little overwhelming for them, so I thought I would help them out. I'd like to thank Aldo and his staff, especially Guillermo, to help us through this. It's just a lot to go through for a young family. David and Lindsay just started a new family and just had a new granddaughter. That's the reason they bought the house, so they could build their family. In the back of the property is Burns Avenue, which is just a thoroughfare next to a railroad track, next to commercial property. So this really fits what governance really is as far as being able to take a lot and be able to maximize it for them. I'm glad to say that we had my fifth grandchild, which is going to be living in one of these bedrooms. And I do have pictures on my phone if you ever want to see them. But I just want to thank you for your time. I think this is just a perfect example of what this particular commission does. And we thank you all for your support.
Well, thank you, Mr. Worthy. So, Ms. Secretary, has there been any correspondence in favor or opposition?
None.
And is there anyone in the crowd this evening that would like to speak in favor or opposition? Okay, so seeing none, does the planning staff have a recommendation?
Mr. Chairman, staff recommends the commission approve variance application number PLN 21-00033, subject to attached conditions of approval.
Thank you, Mr. Arvella. At this time is the planning commission discussion. Ms. Uva, do you have any questions or any comments in regards to this application?
I do not have any questions or comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Montoya, any questions or comments?
No questions either, Vice Chair.
Thank you. And Commissioner Ortiz?
No questions, just wishing the family many blessings and to all the future growth of the family. Wish them well.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Ortiz. I agree. I mean, the applicant, Mr. Worthy, stated it correctly. This is what we're all about, in my opinion. You know, to look at things like this, odd-shaped lot, you know, the variance is pretty straightforward. In this case, there's not a big impact, as was stated by the applicant. And as we saw, you know, in the presentation, the property backs up, you know, to a throughway, a shortcut, if you will, as, you know, all of us Downeyites know it to be. You know, Burns Avenue is the shortcut. So I'm in favor of this. That would be my comment. So what is the pleasure of the Planning Commission? May I have a motion?
A motion to pass PLN-21-00033.
I'll second it.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the recommended approval of the City Council for case PLN-21-00033. So at this time, may we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Uva,
Aye.
Commissioner Ortiz,
Aye.
Commissioner Montoya,
Aye.
and Vice Chair Owens.
Aye.
And the motion passes to approve PLN 21-00033 for a variance.
Okay, I wanted to remind the applicant, I should have done this with the first applicant, and I apologize, but remind the applicant that The action of the planning commission will be final unless the matter is appealed to the city council with the appropriate fee within the specified time period as set forth in the city's ordinance. So next on the agenda this evening is the non-agenda public comment. Do we have anyone who would like to make any non-agenda public comment? Seeing none. Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Same thing. Doesn't appear we have anything on the consent calendar this evening. So at this point, is there any other business to discuss? Commissioner Uva?
Nothing for me.
All right, Commissioner Montoya?
I've got no business to discuss either.
All right, Commissioner Ortiz?
Nothing for me either.
Nothing for me as well. And at this point, are there any staff member comments?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I wanted to just give a heads up to the Planning Commission and those in the audience that we've distributed our housing element update for public comment for the next couple of weeks. As you remember, the housing element update is required by the state of California. So every city in the state is mandated to go in and assess the amount of housing that they need to zone for. And the dramatic effect in this round of the housing element update is that we need to zone for a tremendous amount of new housing in the city of Downey, which equals approximately 6,500 units. And so we've had numerous community meetings on the topic. We've released this draft on our website and through all of our social media channels, and we'll continue to market it over the next few weeks on those venues. Ultimately, we'll be in front of the Planning Commission first with a presentation, similar to what we've done with other big topics over the last few months. And then after that, we'll come back at a future meeting for a recommendation from the Planning Commission to the City Council, where ultimately the City Council will hold a public hearing on the same topic. And that concludes my update.
Thank you, Mr. Schindler. So at this time, would call for adjournment and remind everyone the next regularly scheduled meeting is Wednesday, September 15, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Downey City Hall, 11111 Brookshire Ave in Downey. And thank you. That concludes this evening's meeting.